There's a $3 box under your bathroom sink right now. You've walked past it for years. Your grandmother knew what it was for. You've forgotten. That little blue box of Epsom salt. Your grandmother kept it on the shelf. The Amish in Lancaster County still buy it by the 25-pound sack for less than one bottle of name-brand Tylenol. The average American household wastes over $400 a year on products this one mineral replaces completely. The Amish never stopped using it. We did. And the reason we stopped has very little to do with whether it works, and everything to do with who profits when you forget. Before this video ends, I'll show you a recipe from a 1958 Farmer's Almanac. Found it in a kitchen drawer in Holmes County, Ohio. A grandmother circled it in pencil. It still works, a method so simple you can do it this weekend with what is already in your pantry. The first time I sat at a kitchen table in Millersburg, Ohio, I watched a woman in her 60s pour 2 cups of Epsom salt into a basin of hot water and treat what 3 doctors had failed to fix in her husband's foot. I never looked at a medicine cabinet the same way again. If you already own your home, if that blue box is already in your cabinet, this video was made for you. Nothing here requires a remodel. Nothing here requires a permit. Just what's already in your pantry. Now let me take you back to 1618. That is not a typo. 407 years ago, a farmer in the English town of Epsom noticed his cattle refused to drink from a particular spring. Curious, he tasted the water himself. Bitter, unpleasant, but within days, the small cuts on his hands had healed faster than he could explain. Word spread. By the late 1600s, a chemist by the name of Nehemiah Grew secured a royal patent in 1695 for the exclusive right to extract and sell this mineral compound. That patent is still on record. You can look it up. What Grew had isolated was magnesium sulfate, what we now call Epsom salt. For the next 250 years, this compound was a staple in every farmhouse in America. The Amish, who arrived in Pennsylvania in the early 1700s, brought their use of it from the old country and never let go. While the rest of America moved on to patented pharmaceuticals after the Second World War, the plain communities kept doing what worked. And here's the part nobody tells you. Researchers at the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom confirmed in a controlled study that soaking in Epsom salt water can raise the body's magnesium levels by as much as 35%. 35%. Most Americans, according to data collected by the National Academy of Sciences, do not get enough magnesium in their diet. Magnesium is involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in the human body. It regulates the heart, it calms the nervous system, it controls muscle function, it governs sleep, and the cheapest, most direct way to restore it, according to those same researchers, is through the skin, not through a $40 bottle of pills, through a $3 bath. The first Amish hack is simple. 2 cups of Epsom salt in a standard bathtub of water, as hot as you can comfortably stand. Soak for at least 15 minutes, 3 times a week. The folks in Lancaster County have been doing exactly this for over a century, and you will not find a single chronic insomnia complaint in those households. There is a reason, but that bath is just the beginning. Because the Amish discovered something far more specific. They learned that Epsom salt works differently depending on what you combine it with, and the combinations were never written down in any mainstream medical text. They were passed kitchen to kitchen, mother to daughter for 3 generations. And the first combination is one you can try tonight with something already sitting in your medicine cabinet. Here is what the woman in Millersburg showed me that afternoon. She took a small jar of regular Vicks VapoRub, the same one your mother rubbed on your chest when you had a cold, and she scooped 2 tablespoons of it into a basin. Then she poured in 1 cup of Epsom salt, then hot water. Her husband's foot, swollen and discolored from what the doctors had called persistent inflammation, went into the basin. Within 15 minutes, the swelling visibly went down. I watched it happen. The reason this works, and the reason no pharmaceutical company will advertise it, is that the menthol and eucalyptus in the Vicks opens the pores wide. Once those pores are open, the magnesium sulfate in the Epsom salt absorbs directly into the inflamed tissue where it is needed most. The combination is faster and more effective than either one alone. The Amish call this a drawing bath. They have been using it since at least the 1920s for arthritis, joint pain, gout, and infected splinters. There is a peer-reviewed clinical trial published in 2024 that confirmed Epsom salt baths significantly reduced pain and intensity in patients with knee osteoarthritis. The data is there if you go looking for it. But the average doctor will never mention it because there is no patent to defend and no profit margin to protect. The second hack is the salt sock. You take a clean cotton sock, you fill it with about 1 cup of dry Epsom salt, you tie off the end, and you microwave it for 45 seconds until it is hot to the touch but not burning. That heated sock, pressed against the side of the face, can ease toothache pain in under 10 minutes. Pressed against the ear, it eases ear infections. Pressed against the sinuses, it breaks up congestion. The dry heat draws the inflammation outward while the magnesium penetrates through the skin. Amish grandmothers in Holmes County have been making salt socks for at least 4 generations. The third hack is the ginger soak. 1 cup of Epsom salt, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger sliced thin, all dissolved in a basin of hot water. Feet go in for 20 minutes. This pulls toxins out through the soles of the feet, and yes, that sounds like folk medicine, but the Amish swear by it for hangovers, for fatigue, for cold and flu recovery. The reason it works has to do with osmotic pressure. The dissolved salts create a gradient that pulls fluid and waste compounds outward through the skin. Simple physics. The fourth hack uses Epsom salt for splinters. You make a thick paste, 1 tablespoon of salt, just enough warm water to bind, and you press that paste onto the splinter with a small bandage. Leave it overnight. By morning, the splinter has risen to the surface or come out entirely. The salt draws it. The fifth hack is the constipation drink, approved by the Food and Drug Administration itself. 1 teaspoon of food-grade Epsom salt dissolved in a full glass of water, taken once. Within hours, the system clears. The Amish have used this exact ratio for over 100 years. But these 5 are only the beginning, because the next 6 hacks involve the garden, the livestock, and the kitchen, and one of them will save you $60 a month on something you are buying right now. The 6th hack is for your tomato plants. Walk into any Amish garden in Lancaster County in late June, and you will see them tucking a tablespoon of Epsom salt into the soil at the base of each tomato plant. The magnesium and sulfur feed the plant in a way commercial fertilizers cannot match. The result is tomatoes that produce 30% more fruit, with deeper color, fewer cracks, and a sweetness that store-bought tomatoes simply do not have. The same trick works for peppers, roses, and houseplants. The 7th hack is for the lawn. 1 cup of Epsom salt dissolved in a gallon of water, sprayed across 1,000 square feet of lawn, restores green color within 10 days. People are paying lawn care services $70 a visit for chemical treatments that do less than this. The 8th hack is for tree stumps. Drill holes into the stump, fill them with dry Epsom salt, cover with a tarp. Over the course of a few months, the salt dries out the stump from within, and it can be removed by hand without grinding. The Amish use this on small stumps every season. The 9th hack involves the livestock. A barrel of water with a 1/4 cup of Epsom salt mixed in, offered to chickens during a heat wave, prevents heat stroke and keeps egg production steady. The 10th hack is for cleaning. A scoop of Epsom salt mixed with a few drops of dish soap scrubs ceramic tile grout cleaner than any commercial product. The 11th hack is laundry related. Half a cup of Epsom salt added to a hot wash softens hard well water and brightens whites without bleach. The Amish have been doing this for decades, and their linens last twice as long. The 12th hack is for foot odor. A nightly soak in warm water with half a cup of Epsom salt kills the bacteria that causes foot odor permanently. The 13th hack is for sunburn. A washcloth soaked in cold Epsom salt water and laid on the burn pulls the heat out and prevents peeling. The 14th hack is for poison ivy. A paste of Epsom salt and water dabbed onto the rash dries it up overnight. The 15th hack is for bee stings. The same paste, applied immediately, draws out the venom and stops the swelling. The 16th hack is for hair. A tablespoon of Epsom salt mixed into your regular shampoo strips out product buildup and adds volume that no salon treatment can replicate for under $40. Now consider what you are buying every month. Fertilizer, pesticide, foot soak, shampoo additive, drain cleaner, stump remover, heating pads, pain relievers. Compare those bills against a single 10-pound bag of Epsom salt that costs under $15 at any feed store and lasts 6 months. The math becomes painful very quickly. And the question naturally rises, why does no one talk about this anymore? Why did our grandparents know it and we forgot? The answer is uncomfortable. Because in the late 1950s, as patented pharmaceuticals flooded the American market, the trade associations that funded medical journals had every reason to stop promoting solutions that cost $3 and lasted a lifetime. They did not ban Epsom salt. They did something far more effective. They simply stopped mentioning it. And after one generation of silence, the knowledge was gone from most American homes. If you have made it this far, you already understand more about practical home medicine than most people who graduated nursing school in the last 20 years. And if you want the full blueprint, all 25 hacks with exact ratios, the storage methods that keep Epsom salt potent for years, the specific brand names the Amish actually buy at US retailers, and 17 more applications I do not have time to cover here. It is all laid out in the Amish Home System Manual. Link is right below this video in the description. Now stay with me, because what comes next is specifically for those of you who already own your home. Now, if you already own a house and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. There is one application of Epsom salt that the Amish have used inside existing homes for generations, and it requires no remodeling, no contractor, no permit, and no special equipment. It is a method for treating moldy and damp basements, the kind of basement that exists in nearly every American home built before 1980. You take 5 pounds of Epsom salt and you spread it in a thin layer across the basement floor along any wall where you have noticed dampness or musty smell. You leave it there for 72 hours. The Epsom salt acts as a desiccant. It pulls moisture out of the concrete, out of the air, and out of the cinder block walls. The Amish in damp Pennsylvania basements have been doing this every spring and every fall for as long as anyone can remember. After 3 days, you sweep it up, you dispose of it, and you start fresh. The musty smell is gone, the dampness is reduced, and you have just done for $15 what a professional basement waterproofing service would charge you $4,000 to attempt. The same trick works in closets that have a damp smell, in crawl spaces, in garages that flood occasionally, and in attics where humidity collects. A bowl of Epsom salt in any of these spaces will absorb moisture continuously for weeks. There is also a specific Amish technique for treating wood floors that have started to cup or warp from humidity. You sprinkle Epsom salt lightly across the affected area, leave it overnight, and the salt draws the excess moisture out of the wood fibers, allowing the boards to settle back into their proper shape. This will not work for severe water damage, but for early stage warping, it is remarkably effective. The same principle applies to wooden furniture that has begun to swell or stick. A small dish of Epsom salt placed near the piece for a week pulls the humidity out of the surrounding air. Now, the other application for existing homes involves the medicine cabinet itself. The Amish keep their Epsom salt in a wide-mouth glass jar with a tight lid, stored away from sunlight in a cool, dry place. Stored properly, Epsom salt has no real expiration date. The container in your bathroom right now may be 10 years old and still chemically identical to a new one. There is no need to throw it out. There is every reason to start using it. One more thing for existing homeowners. If you have a septic system, a half cup of Epsom salt poured down the drain every 2 months helps maintain the bacterial balance in the tank. It does not replace pumping, but it extends the time between services. The Amish have used this trick for over 100 years on their own septic and outhouse systems. None of this requires permission, none of it requires permits, none of it requires anyone to come into your home. It only requires you to remember what an entire generation chose to forget. And here's where the story takes a turn I did not expect when I started looking into this, because there is one final technique, one hack so specific and so quietly preserved that it almost did not survive at all. I want to tell you about a document I came across while sitting at a kitchen table in Holmes County, Ohio, last spring. The lady of the house, Mrs. Esther Yoder, and that is her real first name, though I have changed the family name out of respect, reached into a drawer that had not been opened in years and pulled out a thin booklet with a faded green cover. It was a farmer's almanac, printed in 1958 by a small press in Sugar Creek, Ohio. The pages were brittle, the corners were stained from kitchen use, On page 37 in plain English was a recipe her grandmother had circled in pencil. The recipe was for what the booklet called a poultice for deep infection. The exact wording, which I copied down by hand, was this: take 1/2 cup of Epsom salt, add 3 tablespoons of raw honey, the darker the better. Add 1 tablespoon of finely ground bread, white only, not whole wheat. Mix into a thick paste with enough warm water to bind. Apply directly to the wound or infected area. Cover with a clean cotton cloth. Leave overnight. Repeat each evening until drawn clean. Now, I want to be clear with you. I am not telling you to skip a doctor when a doctor is needed. What I am telling you is that this exact recipe, Epsom salt, honey, and breadcrumb, was used by Amish families for at least 7 decades to treat infected splinters, boils, abscesses, drawn pimples, and stubborn skin infections that refuse to heal on their own. And modern science now understands why it works. The Epsom salt creates osmotic pressure that pulls fluid and infection outward. The honey, and this part has been confirmed in dozens of peer-reviewed studies published since 2015, is an antibacterial agent so powerful that medical-grade honey is now used in hospitals to treat antibiotic-resistant infections. The breadcrumb is the binder, the matrix that holds the paste against the skin and gives the honey and salt time to do their work. The 1958 almanac did not know about staphylococcus resistance. The grandmother who circled that recipe did not know about osmotic gradients, but she knew it worked. She had used it on her own children. Her mother had used it on her, and her grandmother before that. 3 generations of women in that one family had kept this recipe alive while the rest of the country forgot, and it almost vanished. Mrs. Yoder told me her daughters were not interested in the old book. Her granddaughters had cell phones now. They went to the doctor for everything. If she had not pulled that booklet out for me that afternoon, the recipe might have died in that drawer. That is the part that haunts me. Not the recipe itself, but how close it came to being lost. The Amish are not magicians. They are not faith healers. They are practical people who kept doing what worked while the rest of America was sold a new solution every 5 years. The honey poultice is the secret finale because it represents everything this video is really about. Knowledge that was never banned, never disproven, never even seriously challenged, only quietly replaced. Forgotten by accident, or maybe not entirely by accident. Either way, lost. And now, sitting in your medicine cabinet, in your pantry, on your kitchen counter, you have every ingredient you need to recreate something that worked for 150 years before anyone thought to put it in a tube and charge $30 for it. That is the true value of what the Amish kept alive. Not magic, just memory. The truth is, nothing was taken from you by force. It was taken from you by silence. One generation simply stopped passing it down, and the next generation never knew it existed. But you know now. You have the dates, you have the names, you have the ratios, you have the techniques. And tonight, when you open that cabinet under the sink and you see that little blue box sitting there, you will see it the way the Amish see it, not as a leftover from somebody's bath, but as one of the most useful, most undervalued, most quietly powerful tools any household can keep on hand. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. Take that carton out of the cabinet tonight, put it on the counter where you can see it. Try one of these hacks this weekend: the foot soak, the salt sock, the Vicks bath, the tomato trick, any one of them, and see for yourself whether the Amish were right. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these 25 hacks did you grow up watching your grandmother or grandfather use, and which one of them are you going to try first this week? Leave a comment. Tell me your story. I read them, the other folks in this community read them too, and every comment helps somebody else remember something their family forgot. If you found value in what you just watched, hit that subscribe button, not to support me, but to be part of a growing group of Americans who are recovering knowledge that an entire generation walked away from. We are putting these old methods back into circulation, one household at a time. Next week, I am going to walk you through 25 hacks involving plain white vinegar, the kind in the gallon jug at the grocery store for under $3, and there is one technique involving a copper penny and a Teaspoon of vinegar that the Amish have used to test water quality for over 80 years. You are not going to want to miss that one. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and remember, the most powerful tools in your home are usually the ones that cost the least and have been there the longest. The blue box was always there, you just had to remember why your grandmother kept it. Before I let you go today, I want to share a few more things that didn't make it into the main list but deserve to be said, because they round out the picture of why this humble white crystal earned its place in nearly every American farmhouse from the Civil War onward. Epsom salt, properly known as magnesium sulfate heptahydrate, was first discovered in a bitter spring in the town of Epsom, England, back in 1618, when a farmer named Henry Wicker noticed his cattle refused to drink from a particular puddle during a drought. He tasted the water himself, found it bitter, and noticed the water healed scratches and rashes on his skin. Within a generation, English physicians were prescribing the crystallized residue for everything from constipation to gout. And by the 1690s, wealthy Londoners were traveling to Epsom to bathe in the springs the same way Americans now fly to hot springs in Arkansas or Colorado. By the 1850s, every general store from Pennsylvania to Iowa carried Epsom salt in bulk barrels, sold by the scoop for pennies a pound. Sears Roebuck catalogs from 1,897 list a 5-pound box for 9 cents. 9 cents. When the Amish settled across Lancaster County, Holmes County, and the plains of Indiana, they brought with them German folk medicine traditions that had already incorporated bitter salt for over 2 centuries. They didn't need a doctor to tell them it worked. They had grandmothers who had watched it work on 3 generations of children, livestock, and gardens. Now, here is something that doesn't get said often enough. In 1955, a country doctor named Dr. Lewis B. Barnett, practicing in Hereford, Texas, published research showing that the soil in his county was unusually high in magnesium, and the residents of that county had dramatically lower rates of heart disease, arthritis, and kidney stones than the surrounding region. Dr. Barnett spent 30 years documenting these effects and lecturing about magnesium deficiency in American agriculture and the American diet. The medical establishment largely ignored him. Today, decades later, the National Institutes of Health acknowledges that nearly half of all Americans consume less magnesium than recommended, and magnesium deficiency is now linked to migraines, muscle cramps, insomnia, anxiety, high blood pressure, and irregular heartbeat. Dr. Barnett was right. The Amish grandmothers were right. The blue box in the cupboard was right. One more story before we close. In 1972, a registered nurse named Eleanor Hoyt, working in a rural clinic outside Millersburg, Ohio, kept a private journal of the home remedies her Amish patients described when she asked them what they had already tried before coming in. Over 14 years, she logged more than 900 entries. Epsom salt appeared in over 400 of them. Foot soaks for swollen ankles in pregnancy, compresses for bee stings, mouth rinses after tooth extractions, hand soaks for women with rheumatism so severe they could not hold a sewing needle. Eleanor passed away in 2003, but her family donated those journals to a small historical society in Holmes County, and a researcher transcribed them in 2018. That is where some of the quantities I gave you today come from. 2 tablespoons per quart for a compress, half a cup per gallon for a foot soak, a 1/4 teaspoon dissolved in warm water for a mouth rinse after dental work. These are not numbers I made up. These are numbers written down by a nurse who watched them work in pencil, in a spiral notebook, in a clinic that smelled like kerosene and coffee. So the next time you walk past that blue box on the bottom shelf of the pharmacy aisle, remember Eleanor Hoyt. Remember Dr. Barnett. Remember Henry Wicker's thirsty cattle in 1618.